Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing, Max?
Yeah, good. I'm good. I mean, a day like today with the sun coming out, what could be wrong about it, isn't it?
It's
I
been,
bet you'd rather be on the hill than talking to us.
What's that, Angie?
I said, I bet you'd be rather up on the hill than talking to us.
No, I love talking to you guys. Yeah, no, actually, I've got a client after, so I would have had to be at home anyway. So this is a nice
no
bonus.
worries.
I'd rather talk to you than be doing the washing up and.
Buy a dishwasher. That's what I say.
Broken. I got one, but it's broken down. I've been having a complicated relationship with my dishwasher over the last few weeks and months. Yeah.
I have a method of all the things that I will never get rid of is the dishwasher. The dishwasher. Are you the same? Everything. I love it because it just keeps the kitchen tidy.
Yeah, I haven't washed up by hand in God knows how long. I couldn't tell you last time in fact, I have a bottle of washing up liquid under my sink that has been there since before COVID, because I did my kitchen in COVID, and it's the same bottle.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I do wash up. I
don't buy anything that can't go in the dishwasher.
I read somewhere that apparently loading the dishwasher is one of the most common sources of conflict among couples.
Common sources
how you
of
load
what?
the dishwasher, the whole, yeah.
Wow.
Actually, a company put a price. Actually, whoever could design a dishwasher that was so intuitively designed that everybody would load it the same way. They actually offered like $1 million prize to whoever would come up with that design.
I absolutely do not care as long as somebody else is doing it, if that's kind of them to do it. I don't care how they can load it all they like. Just thank you very much for doing it.
I really enjoy loading a dishwasher. I hate unloading it. And when I was designing my kitchen, I really wanted 2 dishwashers so that they would be cupboards. So once you've put your dirty stuff in, and it's clean, it then becomes a cupboard. You use that and then reload it once it's full. That was my goal.
I had a friend that did that.
Yeah, in London. Well, I say London. In a lot of posh houses, they have dishwashers that actually are drawers, and you'll have a drawer unit with 4 dishwashers. Oh my God, that's like a dream for me.
But you don't cook, Michael.
I might cook more if I had more dishwashers.
Do you cook, Max?
Yeah, I do cook. Yeah.
What do you enjoy cooking?
What I enjoy cooking, spicy things. I really enjoy cooking paella. Paella is because it's got the whole memory from home type thing, isn't it? I kind of feel like I'm doing something. And I usually like to cooking something like inviting people and having people around and and eating it outside in the sun. That sense.
Makes
sense. Cooking is I enjoy cooking, but what I enjoy is actually cooking for people and then eating with people. And having that experience, that sort of feeling safe, and then just sitting around and kind of having a little bit of not necessarily a sleep, but a siesta. There's something about that feels really safe and nice when you're with people that.
But it's quite familiar because of your culture as well, isn't it?
Yeah. But I don't think it's unique to my. I mean, yes, very much it's part of Spanish culture, but it's also part of. I think it's something we humans is what we do, isn't it? We sit around from thousands of years, sat around fires, talked and ate, and, after a whole day of hunting mammoths, we would kind of sit around cooking, and that was that. It's just what we do together. So something very nice about it.
Do you always sit down together as a family and eat?
Not always, but that's more circumstantial than there's always that kind of with busyness of life and not being in the. But if we are all at the same time, I like to sit down and eat.
Yeah.
I've got a teenager at the moment. She rebels against it a little bit. But apart from that, we like to eat as a family. Yeah.
We've always done it, and we've always kind of made. Is that the right word? The kids to do it. So if they're home and I've cooked a meal, they sit down at the table. But it's always been every meal. So it's breakfast. If they're home at lunch, it's lunch. We all sit down and actually eat together. And I think it makes such a difference to communication if you do that. Right?
Yeah. It's a really nice way of, and actually I think there's something that, something safe about eating together. You kind of, it's something about that. Getting together as a group and as a family. When I used to work with troubled teenagers back in college, I used to do emotional literacy classes, and it's one of the things that we did to kind of create a a warm atmosphere. They would come from all parts of Somerset. They would arrive at college, and we would just sit and eat. Because a lot of them, what we found is that a lot of people that were in families that had difficulties, they didn't have, they didn't do that. I would ask them, so do you have dinner with your family? They would say, no, I just go up in my room. I just put something in the microwave, go and eat it in my room while I'm on my PlayStation. And that always felt quite sad to me. So it was a nice way of, I think people drop defenses and barriers when they're eating. This is something about that that's very natural, and you're kind of munching and opening your mouth and, shoving things and chopping them. There's something about that makes people be together. There are some people that get very anxious around eating. I remember.
Well, yeah, you and I both know some people that are like that. Yeah, but I also feel there's that, isn't there? There's that bit where it can, as much as it can create barriers, it can get barriers. You can overcome barriers sitting down together as a collective, and it's that supportive. I mean, how many meals have you had at our house?
Oh gosh, lots. I couldn't even count the number.
But William comes home from having a really busy schedule all over the world, and he will just cook.
The first thing he wants to do is cook.
Yeah, because he's eaten out. He gets fed up with eating out, so he wants to cook at home. And when he's home, he doesn't want to go out. Whereas sometimes I think, it'd be nice to go out to dinner and there's no distractions, if you see what I'm saying. But no, he's adamant we're staying in. But I think I'm like that, though. I'll cook. Cooking is my bringing people together.
Some way of giving. I also like when people cook to me. For example, when my girlfriend cooks for me and I'm receiving, and some days, I get home for a day. She says, I've got something for you. I've got some salmon or some salad. And there's something about that it's really warm and welcoming and kind,
nice,
and
isn't
considerate and caring. Yeah.
No, it's not. I love that. I love that when somebody comes around with a cake or something, just something. It's just lovely.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Max,
when you move houses, sometimes you move houses and you arrive and somebody's actually left you like a lasagna or whatever on the doorstep. That's kind of, communities do that.
Lasagna is the only thing that Mike cooks.
It's not actually. I do cook other things, but yeah, if I had to cook for someone today without thinking about it, it would be lasagna. And I've had lasagna twice this week.
Oh, I love lasagna.
It's my favourite, that is. My mum's recipe. I love it.
What's your favourite meal to cook apart from paella?
I really like stir fries. There's something about stir fries. There's something about the movement of it, and especially, and another thing, I actually like cooking and listening to music at the same time. There's something with beats. You listen to some, reggae or something like that, some bouncy ska or reggae while you're cooking a stir fry. You're moving things in the wok and shaking it about. There's something about that feels very a street.
It gets a bit aggressive. It's a bit more of an aggressive. Yeah.
I don't know, it's aggressive. It's just movement. It just feels like dancing.
Yeah. But I mean, you follow the beat of the music. So if it's particularly,
if I was listening to like death metal and cooking a stir fry, then I would probably be chopping it up into a million pieces with large Japanese
I feel like
knives.
if you're listening to death metal, you should be cooking like steak or something. I don't know why. I think I've been watching too much Dexter recently, thinking about meat and cutting people up.
Right, okay, so now we're not cutting anybody up. And so what's been happening in the last year for you, Max?
Oh gosh, well, since I last was in a podcast with you, so a lot has happened. It's been a year of ups and downs. I think I went up to the Himalayas with Lewis. I was the highest I've ever been, and one of the highest experiences that I literally, not just in terms of altitude, but in terms of culture, effort. The whole thing was incredibly amazing. That was trip of a lifetime. Really, really, really incredible journey. And then it's also been a year of lows. I've lost two of my best friends. My best friend from childhood died from motor neuron disease literally a few days after I got back from Nepal. And then a dear colleague of mine that I've been working with for the last 10 years, who also actually known him longer than that, also died very suddenly over Christmas. So it's been a bit very much like that. It's been a difficult, but yet also, even in the difficult bits, there's been a lot of meaning and a lot of intensity, and I notice as I'm talking about it, I still feel the emotion of it all, the sort of the emotion that I felt at the top of that mountain and the emotion that I felt when I buried my friend, the kind of the old, but I felt them really intensely, you know. So
Are
it's
there,
been
are there parallels there?
with the two friends, or with the mountains, or well, there is yeah. Well, I'm in all of them. You know, it's these are meaningful things to me, and it's emotions, feelings is, and it's interesting because um, I was feelings is something that I used to run away from. There's something that I couldn't manage. I was finding too intense and overwhelming, and now so I'm sort of at the point where I'm kind of embracing this, you know, embracing the highs and embracing the lows. I think there's something about accepting of emotions, about accepting sadness, about accepting pain and grief. You know, it's the way to heal. I know it can be unbearable, and you know what I'm talking about here. You know, there's
Yeah.
that part of when it hits really, really, really hard. But it's also a measure of love. You know, it's a measure of love. When for example, my friend from childhood, we were friends since we were 1 year old. Is the probably as attachments go and relationships that I had in my life, it was probably the one of the most significant ones after my mother and my sister, kind of thing. You know, and my father, actually, I put him after him. And what was nice is I managed to get in the summer. I had had a real sense that I needed to go and see him. He had motor neuron disease. He had been ill for like 2 or 3 years. And I remember I sort of spoke to him one day, and I thought, I got to go and see him. And I actually just went to Spain for like 6 days. And I went and we went out. We went to see Primal Scream in playing in the beach in Spain. And the last song, they finished the concert with a song called Come Together. And we were both, he was in a wheelchair. We were on the beach, and we had a really nice day out. And we were both dancing there. And then I dropped him home. That was the last time I saw him. And at that moment, that was a real nice moment of sort of capturing the relationship, you know, the meaning that has had to me for 50 years. I've turned 50, by the way, this year as well. That's another one. I'm a big milestone. I'm in my 50s now. I still don't feel 50. Or still, at least I don't feel the way that I thought that I would feel when I got to 50, when I was 25. I certainly don't feel that. But yeah, but that was, that hit me like a ton of bricks. That was, you know, even though it was expected, it was still a shock. You know, yeah, I feel incredibly sad. Especially coming back from Nepal, you know, I mean, I don't know if Lewis talked to you about being in Nepal or not, but it was...
I'm curious to know, Max, what made you decide to go to Nepal and climb the mountain?
Okay, well, we and in the last podcast we talked about Morocco, because that's where we went. Lewis's stag do was going to be going to, which was we did the stag do after the wedding because of COVID. We went to Morocco. When we were in Morocco, we said, why don't we do Everest Base Camp? And then after that, the conversation came looking at different things that we could do that weren't really Everest Base Camp. I kind of thought that the idea of going somewhere and getting just to the bottom of a mountain would somehow be quite unsatisfactory. To walk for 12 days to get to the bottom of a mountain. So we thought, is there any way we can get to the top of something? And Lewis researched this mountain called Mera Peak, which is the highest mountain in the Himalayas that you can get to the top without actually having to do any major dangling from ropes. So it's literally just walking. And yeah, and just because, you know, since I was a kid, I always wanted to go to the Himalayas. So for me, it was fulfilling a childhood dream. And that was an incredible experience. That was just, I mean, the culture blew me away. Lewis and the others got there about 2 weeks before me. I got there a bit later because of work commitments. I couldn't take as much time off as them. And when I got there, I was supposed to catch a flight to the mountains, and there was loads of fog, so there was a delay. So after a few days, they said, okay, somebody said, well, you get a Jeep. So I got this 2-day trip on a Jeep. It was like something out of Indiana. It was crazy. It was like completely crazy ass Nepalese thing. It was 12 people in a Jeep, goats, chickens, roads. I mean, we complain about potholes. I'm never complaining about potholes again. That weren't even roads. It was like mud trucks with 300-meter drops down ravines, bridges that were like, you know, made of metal, kind of dangling from rope. It was just incredible. And then got there and then walked through the jungle, and then through the actual Himalayan plateau. So I think 10 days until we got to base camp, you know, and that was fantastic. It was grueling and hard and intense, but I mean, the people were just incredible, absolutely And obviously we had to communicate. We had guides and porters, and only one of them spoke English, so we communicated in this kind of mixture of an international kind of language, and that was great. And they were really amazing people, really humble, really, the hospitality was amazing. They treated me so well. I had these amazing moments, like at one point my boots broke, and I got into a panic when I was there. My boots, literally the sole kind of came off, and I got into a, oh my God, what do I do without boots here? I'm in the Himalayas without a pair of boots here. I'm screwed, right? So I'm like, kind of, what do I do? And obviously you can't sort of order them on Amazon for the next day, like that kind of thing. So I sellotaped them with bandages and stuff like that. And then I was trying to find some super glue. And we got to this house where we were staying for the night, and I went and asked one of the guys for super glue, and he went and sort of rummaged to the back and got me a pair of super glue that was probably been there since like 1982. It was like really ancient, and I put it, and he gave it to me, and I said to him, like, can I pay you for this? So I took out some money. I was going to give him some dollars, and he says, no, you need, he says, right? He says, you need this. I'm not going to charge you for something that you need, kind of thing, which was actually, and that also was really moving. I really felt that thing, so experiences like that with the people. I had another one where we arrived at this place. It was really cold. We were frozen solid. We were like -10. We got to this house in the middle of nowhere, had no electricity, no nothing, just a fireplace with. And I got there and I'm like really cold. And I go to this woman and she's like, "Look, I'm really cold. Can you light the fire?" And she, you cold. And she says, "Okay." And she goes to the cooker. She grabs 2 potatoes that are boiling. She gives me the potatoes, and she goes, like that. And I says, "Okay." I rub the potatoes in my hand. And then she goes, "No." So I rub the potatoes in my armpits. Then she goes on my belly, rub the potatoes in your belly. And then she points out to my pants and says, and I put the potatoes in my pants. And then I wasn't cold, right? And she said, no fire, potatoes. And I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? So it's little things like that. There's sort of little things that people do.
Did she then make lunch out of them?
What's that?
Did she then make lunch out of those potatoes?
I believe so. I didn't tell her yet.
Was she videoing this to put on YouTube the next day?
No, I don't think that she didn't video up there. I don't think that is a thing.
I was joking there, Max.
Yeah, no, but a lot of people do. Actually, that's another thing that I've noticed when I was there, is that kind of thing, that Western thing of you're walking around and suddenly you turn a corner, beautiful view, mountain, get my phone out, take a picture, post it on social media, and almost like thinking, in order to validate my experience and make it okay, I need to post it somewhere and get approval from people back home. And I've noticed that quite a lot, and realizing, and a lot of the time I was like, what I noticed is the further away I went and up the mountain, apart from the fact there was hardly any internet, is that I felt less the need to do this. I started getting to actually just connecting with connecting with the experience, and actually there's something about the enormity and the size of the mountains and all of that the phone can't capture. And you can post on social media, and it's all right to post on social media, but this constant thing that we do all the time, it gets on my nerves a little bit. Yeah.
One of the things I don't, and to a certain degree, I kind of regretted that I don't. I'm not a great photograph taker, and I regretted it. Last year when I was trying to find photographs to kind of have a funeral, and it was like, oh. Yeah. But on the other hand, is I do very much live in the moment. So it's now, it's here, it's that relationship that we have together, rather than anything. And I just do that. Dave will get his camera out and take like 5 or 6 photographs, and I won't take anything.
It always winds me up when you're watching Glastonbury on the telly, and you see these hundreds of thousands of people there, with on the phone, and I always think your footage is never going to be better than what the BBC can film or
and that's
take.
How you watch them, actually. Do you actually watch the videos of gigs?
Yeah. What's the point of you taking that photo?
Yeah.
You don't need to validate that you're there. Just live the moment and enjoy it. And I remember actually being at I can't even remember where I went. Well, I went to watch a childhood band play a couple of years ago now, just after COVID, and everyone had their phone out, and I had this urge to kind of this herd mentality of I must get my phone out and film this, and it was so hard to not do that. and just live the moment and enjoy it and think, wow, I'm here and having a great time. But yeah, it's amazing how much people do that.
Went to Kate Tempest, the poet. They had the gig in up in Bristol, and they asked at the very beginning of the gigs, she said, "Can I ask you all, please, if you don't mind, just put your phone away just for this gig. Trust me. Let's connect with one another." And it was a kind of an agreement. They made an agreement with the crowd. So let's just put it away, just be with each other. And by the end of the gig, the whole audience was in tears. Everybody was looking at each other. Everybody was embracing. There was something really powerful about. But they did it in a way that they asked permission, and they made it like an agreement with the people. It wasn't imposed, like put your phones away. It's not like Berghain in Berlin, the club where you're not allowed, where they put a sticker on your camera. And,
Do they really?
Yeah. It's
There's a lot of places now that lock your phone in a like a sock, but it's locked in a sock, and it won't unlock until you go through the exit barrier. Yeah. It's like an electronic lock. There's a lot of places that do that now. I went to a spa back at Christmas that did that. And when you arrive, they give you your towel and stuff, and they give you this sock thing for your phone. So you can carry a phone with you, but you can't use it because it's locked in this sock. And the only way you get access to it is when you leave and you scan your phone, scan the sock back in.
Yeah.
I think
anxiety levels go.
Well, we forget that we're not that important, really, in the scheme of the world. We forget that, don't we? It's like, actually, you're not important, that you have to have your phone with you 24 hours a day, 52 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
It's like, do you reach over in the morning? What's the first thing that you do in the mornings? Do you reach over to your phone, or do you reach over to your partner? Or the dog?
I grab my phone. Before that, though, the dog's already like, hello. And he's saying hello. So
that is a thought, isn't it? What do you do?
Partner.
Yeah.
A little hug, kiss, and then put my hand over her, grab the phone. I know, cuddle and kiss first. Without doubt.
Yeah. It has changed our lives quite significantly, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So Max, what plans have you got for this year? What are your goals for this year? What are you trying to aim to do?
At this moment in time, I'm trying to get to the end of another academic year and get all my students, as many of them as possible, through. And I've finished that. Get that.
When does it finish?
Well, finish officially, sort of finish teaching roughly the last week of June. And then obviously people finish their work at different stages, some because of the hours of placement. Some people finish it now, some people may finish in August, some people may finish in January. But there's a lot of processes that we have to do, sort of, external verification, all of that. I'm kind of we're sort of starting to get to that point. One project that I have this year is completing my master's.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you were doing that.
Yeah. I'm just got the small matter of a 16,000 word dissertation, research project, but yeah, no, I look forward to that, because actually, do you know what my research is in? It's in digital detoxes.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it's a project that is something that I took did in Glastonbury Festival. I did a talk there about putting your phone away, use your phone less. So my project is to actually get 6 people. They trade they don't trade. We agree that they swap their mobile phone for one of these. I put one of them here. Remember these things?
Yeah.
Nokia 3310. So and log out all social media and all news media for 2 to 4 weeks, and just the idea is I interview them before and after and see what the experience is like. It's kind of I'm not recording any data in terms of it's not quantitative, it's qualitative. I just want to know what the experience is like to not have a mobile phone in today's world and society, where we're so reliant on it. Like you say, we may even check our phone before we even check if our partners are still breathing. You know what I mean? There is it's something that's so present, and it's become automatic, so embedded. I mean, I find they got really good uses in terms of your diaries and organization and being able to communicate and do stuff. But it's also got the other side that we never put them away. We never stop. We always bombarded with information, and it's actually, how do we filter all of this? And what I found is when I did digital detox in the past, it changed my relationship with it. where I have a better digital diet, because the relationship with mobile phones and technologies. I mean, for example, you think about addictions, right? And we know that if you have an addiction, the idea is that, abstinence does it, right? If you don't go to the pub, you're not going to have a drink. Don't go, don't smoke crack. You're not going to have all those problems. However, with technology, we still need it to function. We still need to exist. So we have to have it's a bit like with eating disorders. People have to have a relationship with food, isn't it? So it's the similar mechanism. And what I found for me, it did shift my relationship with it. I can actually now, if I forget my phone, I'm actually okay. I don't freak out. I don't collapse in a heap in the middle of the street because my phone's run out of battery. So it's just say, but that's my experience, and I'm a kind of very willing participant. What I'm curious is about what is the experience for other people, especially for people that haven't had. I'm a digital immigrant. I was born in a world that didn't have all of this. But for people that are born, that digital natives, what is that like for them? What is it like for like a 21-year-old person that has always had a mobile phone and internet to all of a sudden not have it as much? And I'm very curious. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but maybe when I complete that, we can have another.
When does it get completed?
Huh?
When are you going to complete it?
Well, I've got. I'm hoping to complete it by September, October.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who are you doing it through? Which university?
Bath Spa Uni. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, because they allow it's part time, so they allow me to do it part time. So it's also distance learning, so I can do it in my own time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Which for me works really well, because actually I teach this subject in a sense. When you teach something, I'm kind of embedded. I'm learning. I'm reading. I have the joy that a lot of my students do a lot of the reading for my behalf. They go and do the work, and then I read their essays, and they've given me almost like a little précis of books. So that's really helpful. Yeah.
That's cheating, Max.
No, it's just, you got to make do with whatever resources you got.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I'm looking at doing is actually I'm going again. Last year I went to the trauma conference in Oxford. Fantastic experience, and I'm going again this year. And I managed to book myself to see Gabor Mate on a workshop. I'm gonna have a workshop with Gabor Mate. It's a bit like, feels like I'm gonna go and see like the Rolling Stones or something like that. So yeah, it's very interesting, all of that.
Well, in fact, I was talking to somebody today about that, and I absolutely respect a lot of the work that he's done. But one of the things some of the things that he says, I don't always necessarily agree with in the way he communicates, and it almost comes over as a judgment. If you're not doing this, or you have to do this, and to get this, you're going to have this happy ever after type thing. And it's the reality is you've experienced yourself this year. That's not a reality. It's not, you can have the happy ever after, but the happy ever after sometimes comes with grief and loss and various other bits and pieces. And sometimes the grief and loss doesn't always, it's not your choice. You don't want to lose your friend, your childhood friend. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's that painful moment. And so I've actually had to manage that bit, because I respect so much of his work that some of that I've had to kind of step back.
You don't have to agree with everything. And actually, and I think this is what you said there about happiness. I think this idea of the pursuit of happiness, sometimes we forget the happiness of pursuit. What happens with this idea that we must be happy all the time is a complete nonsense. Life is life, and life is ups and downs and peaks and troughs and sadness. And I was actually talking with my girlfriend about this earlier on, that without sunshine, without clouds and sunshine, you cannot have rainbows. That's the idea. Yeah. Actually, you need both. Out of the cracks are good is where the light gets in, and actually when you have the other day I found a flower on my driveway on the pavement. There's a bit of pavement out here, and there's like a real poppy, and it's kind of grown through the cracks. And because it's grown through the cracks, it makes it a lot more beautiful than a whole field full of poppies. Yeah. Which is kind of, that's something you expect that. But there's something about what comes out of the darkness, what comes out of the shadows.
But also, I think that's the thing about mental health, isn't it? That actually those shadows, for some people, they don't go. They just they're bubbling away at the surface all the time. Society don't not everybody wants to accept that. They kind of think, oh, you've had time and, you know, you should have been over that by now. But the truth is that's not the case. It's, you know, the majority of people don't have the capacity or indeed will never, ever be able to heal from that, whatever their trauma may be. And it's going to sit there forever type thing. It just doesn't go away.
Actually, and there's something about, I actually don't want it to go away.
Yeah.
I don't want the love that I feel I don't want the love that I felt for my parents, for my friends, and I'm sure that you feel the same. You don't want the love to go. There's something human and natural in feeling sad. I mean, we don't want to be sad all the time to the point where we're overwhelmed and we're kind of so bereft that we can't function. That can become difficult. But I don't want it to go away. I mean, if there was like, if take this pill and all of this will go away, I wouldn't take that pill.
Well, that's what you did before, isn't it? That's what addiction is.
Yeah,
take the pill,
exactly.
It'll go away. And you know, the research that they've, you know, kind of looking at around antidepressants and you know, the reality is that there is no evidence that antidepressants work. It's a myth that they've was set up by the drugs companies, and everybody's gone with it. Yeah. And then as a result, if you look at the results of people taking an antidepressant, in fact, a large proportion of people become more depressed rather than being less depressed. Yeah. And so as a result, it's that situational stuff, isn't it? And that emotional journey that you're going through and the brain function and the links to that as well at the same time. And people don't really understand that because we're not open as a society to discuss that necessarily, because we want to conform with what society is telling us. Go to the doctors, get a prescription, it's going to make you feel better.
But of course, you've money out of as well. It's also the bit that it's actually it's a business interest, you know. But no, I completely agree with you that actually there's something when we feel disconnected from ourselves, when we feel disconnected from the world, when we that sort of dorsal vagal state of actually I feel shut down and alone and I'm not connecting with other people. If I take antidepressants, then I'm actually, as well as being disconnected from other people, I'm actually disconnected from myself as well. So I'm not even connected with myself. And I remember I was on antidepressants for many, many, many years. I have to say that perhaps they kept me alive just enough and above this, just floating above the surface just enough that I got myself into rehab and made it there. But once I made it there, I actually stopped taking and I realized that I didn't need them anymore. That actually there's something about facing life on life's terms and accepting and you know, and if I feel sad, I feel sad. If I feel angry, I feel angry. I think there's a difference as well into, for example, feeling angry or being angry, or feeling sad and being sad, or feeling anxious and being anxious. You know, that's behavior, that's choices. But
is it a choice?
It is a choice when we develop enough awareness.
Yeah, because I think, you know, coming back to that bit about circumstances can overtake that, can't they? Mm-hmm. So you don't choose to, like you didn't choose to have to grieve for your loss of your friend. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? That was kind of forced onto you in some way, in some aspect. Mm-hmm. That was not your choice to have that. And in a sense, it's the same as, you know, I don't know, whatever your circumstances are, you don't choose those circumstances. And I think that's the thing that Gabor Mate says. He does use that quite a lot, that statement quite a lot. But I think it's perhaps choosing how you respond to that when you've been given that your cards have been dealt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
It's that illusion of free will. We don't have free will because we don't choose what comes our way, but what we can choose is actually how we respond to what comes our way. We often tend to react, and I think one thing that happens is that when people don't, in general, when myself included, that don't have the awareness or the knowledge, we have a tendency to react to things. But if we are able to, I always use this analogy with my students from Ice Cube, the rapper. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Right? It's actually just having that, just pause for a moment. Give yourself permission to process this and then respond instead of reacting. So it's to take responsibility rather than reactability. And I'm not going to sit here and say that always works. I'm sometimes lose my rag when I'm driving or something, you know, or somebody says something to me or somebody cuts me off, or I feel disrespected or something like that. I may react from a very childlike space, you know, but generally, what I do know is that I do have the choice in that moment. You know, that I can say, okay, let's just pause here and engage the adult.
Is there a level, and I don't know whether you feel this, Mike, as well, where you can have a confusion around what is mental ill health, what is mental health, and what's the bit in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, where does it say, who decides that your thinking is unhealthy, or your response, or indeed you have certain mechanisms in your life that aren't healthy?
I think that's, it depends on each individual person. It will mean something different, and I think the strategies that you employ to kind of handle that, again, will vary depending on you, the situation, what it is you're going through. So, you know, I know that if I've had a crazy week with work, the last thing I want to do is go and see people on a Friday night. Friday nights for me can be the worst day of the week because I've processed so much. I've been in meetings all week. I've been running around meeting people or driving loads of miles or whatever. And I've noticed over my short number of years on this planet that a Friday night for me, it just needs to be a decompression. It needs to be, you know, sit in front of the TV and do very little. Otherwise, I know that I'll be grumpy on a Friday night if I go and see people or do things. Now, there are times when I will go and do things and see people on a Friday night, and I just have to manage that. And I think that's where you then you know, you might change it so actually the Saturday morning might be your time where you don't do anything, and that's where in my personal experience, that's how I manage my mental well-being or health or whatever word you want to use. I've kind of gone around your question, really, but that's sort of how I've dealt with it, and strategies and things like that. And obviously different things happen at different times in your life where you're going to have to employ other kinds of strategies to make sure that your mental well-being and mental health are in a good position.
But do you know, how do you decide? Who decides what is well-being and what is not well-being?
I think that's
I don't mean about an action. I'm talking about who decides that you've got a mental health problem.
Our culture does that. A lot of it is our culture, because it was very interesting. It's the different culture have got different views on this.
Yeah.
For example, I remember when I went to Ireland a few years ago, and in Ireland, every person that you meet tells you their life story, right? You go to Costa Coffee, and the person in Costa Coffee is going to give you like a 5-minute potted version of their life story, right? And if you don't tell yours, they don't feel comfortable, right? Now think about that in Britain. If you weren't around telling your life story to people, they probably think that you're mad. They probably put you in. And whereas in Ireland, if you don't, they think that you're mad, right? So a lot of this culture. Yeah, I think a lot of this is to the filters of culture and expectations and perceptions. Like, for example, going to, for example, the whole culture around death, for example, that they have. When we went to Nepal, I realized that they have a very different view on life and death, and perhaps because they have a culture in which they know they're going to come back anyway. So, what's the point of dwelling so much on this one? And so they live on the edge quite a lot. It feels like they live on the edge. There's a certain something about that, and that's because their life is a lot more precarious and different than the life that we live here. Things that you take, I think, like running water, and actually the monsoon and nature there is so wild and so big that it's untamed. Where here we live this very, very safe life, so we have very different perception around things. I think here we have more time to sort of look and ponder on the meaning of life, etc. Whereas, when you actually live in an existence that's a lot more basic and complicated, you may not be considering that. What is mental health for a child in Gaza, for example, at the moment? That's being bombed or whatever. What is their perception about what is, they might have a completely different view. There's the trauma of all of that as well. What has a society experienced as a trauma? I think that's very, looking at, for example, the way that we responded to COVID, how different countries responded to COVID, gives you an indication that just it's so nuanced, it's so complicated.
But I concur with you, but I also do feel that in a sense there's that bit where if we don't start looking at the alternatives instead of labeling everybody with that, I have a mental health problem, and actually it might be that you're lonely, or it might be that you're sad, and it might be that things haven't been going according to plan and it's kind of made you feel a little bit scared, or they're perfectly normal human feelings. It doesn't mean to say you've got a mental health problem.
It's just what we know. Actually, if you think about what we call mental health problems, are just actually sort of extreme versions of normal experiences. Like depression is just an extreme sadness kind of thing, isn't it? It's just sadness multiplied by 1,000. General anxiety disorder, if we want to call it that, that's just actually, it's just, we all have anxiety, but it just becomes, and everybody, if they have the capacity to develop an anxiety that becomes crippling, they also have the capacity to bring it the other way around, isn't it? To a level where actually is tolerable and actually useful. Anxiety is quite useful.
But that comes back to your digital detox, doesn't it, really, in a sense, which is using the digital world in a balanced way, and being able to recognize, hold on a minute, there's a problem here. I've got my phone permanently attached to me, and also I'm permanently looking at it and forgetting what's going on around me. And then actually, if I take time out and stop doing that, then my life might be better, or I might see things that I wouldn't see otherwise, or I might enjoy things differently, or whatever the circumstances are.
Yeah. Well, balance and measure, and and kind of what was the Greek? I've got it was the maxims of the Delphi. They said, know thyself, all things in moderation, and the other one is certainty brings insanity. That's the other thing. It's actually having to accept. The best way of feeling that we're in control is accepting that we are completely not in control of anything, that the world is uncertain and random, and it's just having an acceptance of that, and not trying to control everything.
Yeah, I hear that. Absolutely hear that. Is so what's your kind of thoughts for the rest of the next year? Because obviously we'll have you back next year.
Yeah, we'll complete my masters, do all of that. We're having to make some changes in kind of how we deliver, because we've lost the colleague that's been with us for 15 years, and so we're making some changes in how we deliver our qualification. We are thinking bringing what we teach to a bit more to the 21st century. I think there's been quite a lot of new developments in counseling and in forms of therapy that I'm really sort of learning a lot. So we feel like making some changes. I think those are the things. And I've decided to become a supervisor. I decided to offer supervision as well. So that's my next step in my practice as well, is to be start supervising therapists. I think
sounds good.
I've been doing this long enough, and I've got enough knowledge and experience to actually be able to deliver that. So that's very exciting. I'm very excited about that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Max. It's been great to catch up, and like you said, we'll get you on again in about a year's time.
Okay, yeah. Luckily, the last time I came to see you guys, it was quite an emotional thing. I actually got a speeding ticket on the way back.
Oh,
it's
really?
The only speeding ticket that I've ever had, right? Because I always drive. No, that's a joke.
Is that why you wanted to do it remotely today, to avoid another speeding ticket?
No, I would have loved to have driven all the way to Cheddar. I like going down that neck of the woods. But yeah, it's I haven't got a car at the moment. I crashed my car not long ago, so I'm waiting for a new one. So
is that the anxiety of coming on the podcast? Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you again.
We'll see you soon.
Cheers, guys. Take care. All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.